I never thought I'd fall in love at a bike repair shop, but then again, I never thought anyone would spend 3 weeks pretending my perfectly fine bicycle needed constant repairs either. It started on a Tuesday morning in late September. I'd been biking to work for about 6 months, one of those post-pandemic lifestyle changes that actually stuck. The route from my apartment in Capitol Hill to the tech company downtown was only 4 miles, and I'd gotten pretty attached to my beat-up Trek hybrid. Nothing fancy, just a reliable companion that got me where I needed to go. That morning, my chain started making this awful grinding noise. I'm not mechanically inclined at all. I can barely change a light bulb without Googling instructions. So when the grinding got worse as I approached Pike Street, I did what any millennial would do and pulled up Google Maps to find the nearest bike shop. Spoke and Wheel Repairs, 3.5 stars, 0.2 miles away. Good enough. Good. The shop was squeezed between a vintage clothing store and a FHO restaurant, the kind of place you'd walk past 100 times without noticing. A bell chimed when I walked in, wheeling my bike through the narrow doorway. The smell hit me immediately, that particular combination of rubber, metal, and lubricant that I'd later come to associate with him. He was bent over a road bike in the back, his dark hair falling forward as he worked. When he looked up, I felt something shift in my chest. He had these warm brown eyes, the kind that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, and he was smiling at me like I was the first interesting thing that had happened all day. "Hey there," he said, straightening up and wiping his hands on a rag that might have once been white. "What can I help you with?" I gestured helplessly at my bike. "The chain's making this horrible noise. I think something's wrong." He walked over, and I noticed he moved with this easy confidence, like someone completely comfortable in his own skin. He was wearing a faded Soundgarden t-shirt with the sleeves cut off, and I tried very hard not to stare at his forearms. I failed. "Let's take a look," he said, kneeling down beside the bike. His fingers moved over the chain with practiced ease, and I found myself watching the way his hands worked, gentle but sure. "Yeah, you've got some buildup here. When's the last time you cleaned it?" "Cleaned it," I repeated, feeling my face heat up. I didn't know I was supposed to clean it. He laughed, and it was such a genuine sound that I couldn't help but smile. "No judgment, man. Most people don't. I'm Marcus, by the way." "Ryan," I said, and when our eyes met, I swear something passed between us. Or maybe I was just desperate and reading into things. That was always a possibility. "Well, Ryan, good news is this is an easy fix. I can clean and lube the chain. Should take about 20 minutes. You got time?" I absolutely did not have time. I was already late for a meeting. But I heard myself saying, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Marcus set to work, and I perched on a stool near the counter, pretending to look at my phone while actually watching him. He hummed while he worked, some tune I didn't recognize, and every so often he'd glance over at me and smile. Each time my heart did this stupid little flutter. "So you bike to work?" he asked, not looking up from what he was doing. "Yeah, just started this year. Trying to be more, active, I guess." "That's cool. Best way to see the city, honestly. You notice things on a bike that you'd miss in a car." "Like sketchy bike repair shops?" I joked, and immediately regretted it, but Marcus just laughed again. "Exactly like sketchy bike repair shops, though I prefer to think of this place as charmingly vintage." "Is that what we're calling it?" "Either that or aggressively retro. I'm still workshopping the marketing angle." We fell into easy conversation, the kind that feels natural even though you've just met someone. He told me he'd owned the shop for 2 years, that he'd learned bike mechanics from his dad, that he loved it because every day was different. I told him about my soul-crushing job in tech, about how biking was the only part of my day that felt real anymore. "All done," he announced, standing up and brushing off his knees. "Give it a try." The bike was silent when I tested the pedals. Whatever magic he'd worked, it had definitely worked. "How much do I owe you?" I asked, reaching for my wallet. Marcus waved me off. "Don't worry about it. First time's free. Consider it a welcome to the neighborhood thing." "Are you sure? I mean, you spent time on it." "Honestly, it was like 5 minutes of actual work. Come back if you have any other problems, though. Next time I'll actually have to charge you." He grinned, and I felt that flutter again. I thanked him and left, and I thought that would be the end of it. Just a nice interaction with a cute guy who happened to be good at his job. I'd probably never see him again. Except 2 days later, my front brakes started squeaking. I told myself it was a legitimate problem. Brakes are important, safety and all that. The fact that I could have probably fixed it myself with a YouTube tutorial was irrelevant. I was supporting local business. Marcus looked genuinely happy to see me when I walked in Thursday afternoon. "Ryan, back so soon? Don't tell me the chain's acting up again." "No, the chain's perfect, but my front brake is squeaking." He examined it, his brow furrowed in concentration. Yeah, your brake pads are pretty worn. I should replace these. You got maybe another week or two, but better safe than sorry, right?" "Definitely. Safety first." While he worked, we picked up our conversation like we'd been friends for years. He asked about my work, seemed genuinely interested when I explained what I did, even though I could see his eyes glazing over when I got too technical. I asked about his favorite places to bike in the city, and he lit up, describing this route around Lake Washington that he did every Sunday morning. "You should come sometime," he said, almost casually, but there was something in his voice that made me think it wasn't casual at all. "I mean, if you want. No pressure." "Yeah," I said, probably too quickly. "Yeah, that sounds great." He smiled, that warm, genuine smile that made his whole face change. "Cool. Give me your number and I'll text you the details." My hands were shaking when I typed my number into his phone. This was definitely just a friendly thing. Bike enthusiasts riding together. Nothing more. "Okay, brakes are good to go," he said, testing them a few times. "That should be way better." "How much?" $20? The pads were cheap. It seemed like too little, but I handed over the money and tried not to feel disappointed that our interaction was ending. "See you Sunday?" Marcus asked as I was leaving. "Yeah, Sunday." I thought about that ride constantly over the next 2 days, what I'd wear, what we'd talk about, whether I was completely misreading the situation. Saturday night I barely slept. Sunday morning dawned clear and cool, perfect biking weather. Marcus had texted me the meeting spot, a coffee shop near the lake, and I got there 15 minutes early because apparently I'd reverted to being a teenager with a crush. He showed up right on time, looking unfairly good in cycling gear, and we set off around the lake. The ride was beautiful, the morning light glinting off the water, but I barely noticed the scenery. I was too focused on Marcus, on the way he'd point out landmarks, on how he'd slow down to match my pace, even though he was clearly a much stronger rider. We stopped at a viewpoint about halfway around, both of us breathing hard, and stood looking out at the water. "This is amazing," I said. "I can't believe I've lived here for 3 years and never done this ride." "Sometimes the best things are right in front of us and we just don't see them," Marcus said, and when I turned to look at him, he was looking at me. The moment stretched between us, full of possibility, and I was just working up the courage to say something, anything, when a group of cyclists came zooming past and broke the spell. We finished the ride, grabbed coffee, and talked for another hour before I reluctantly said I had to get home. Marcus hugged me goodbye, and I tried not to read too much into how long the hug lasted. Over the next 2 weeks, my bike developed a series of increasingly minor problems. The seat was loose, the back tire seemed low. There was a weird rattle I couldn't identify. Each time I'd show up at Spoke and Wheel, and each time Marcus would fix it, usually for free or for barely anything, and we'd talk. I learned that he'd moved to Seattle from Portland 5 years ago after a bad breakup, that he played guitar but only when he was alone, that his favorite movie was The Princess Bride, and he could quote the entire thing, that he was scared of commitment because everyone he'd ever loved had left. I told him things I'd never told anyone. About feeling lost in my job, about the pressure from my family to be successful, about being scared that I'd wake up at 40 and realize I'd wasted my life playing it safe. "You're not playing it safe now," he said one afternoon, looking up from adjusting my derailleur. "You're here, aren't you?" "This is different." "Is it?" Our eyes met, and I couldn't look away. The air between us felt charged, electric. "Marcus," I started, but he shook his head. "Your bike's done," he said, standing up quickly. "Good as new." I paid him and left, feeling confused and frustrated. The signals were mixed. Sometimes I was sure he felt the same way I did, and other times he'd pull back like he was scared. 3 days later, I was riding home from work when my chain fell off. I knew, intellectually, that I could probably fix it myself. But instead, I walked my bike the 6 blocks to Marcus's shop. He was just closing up when I got there, pulling down the security gate. "Ryan, What happened? Chain fell off, I said. I know you're closing. I can come back tomorrow. Don't be ridiculous. Come on. He let us both in, flipping on just the back lights. The shop felt different in the semi-darkness, more intimate. He worked on my chain in silence for a few minutes, and I could feel the tension building. Ryan, he finally said, not looking at me. Why do you keep coming back here? My heart was pounding. Because my bike keeps breaking. Your bike is fine. It's been fine for weeks. I've been making up problems. I stared at him. What? He finally looked up at me, and his expression was vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. That first day, the chain actually did need cleaning, but the brakes were fine. The seat was fine. Everything was fine. I just kept finding excuses to see you again. Why didn't you just ask me out? Because I was scared. Because every time I let myself care about someone, they leave. Because you're this smart, successful guy, and I'm just a bike mechanic. Because... He trailed off, shaking his head. I crossed the distance between us in 2 steps. Because what? Because you matter, he whispered. And that terrifies me. I kissed him. I didn't think about it, didn't plan it, just closed the gap and pressed my lips to his. For a second he froze, and I thought I'd made a terrible mistake. Then his hands came up to cup my face, and he was kissing me back, and it was like everything in my life suddenly made sense. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I've wanted to do that for weeks, he admitted. Me too. God, me too. Your bike really is fine, you know. I laughed. I know. I've known for at least a week. I just didn't want to stop having excuses to see you. So we're both idiots. Apparently. He kissed me again, slower this time, and I felt something settle in my chest, something that felt like coming home. We've been together for 8 months now. I still bring my bike to his shop, even though we both know there's nothing wrong with it. He still pretends to find things that need fixing. It's become our thing, our private joke. Last week he told me he loved me while adjusting my perfectly fine handlebars. I said it back while he was pretending to examine my chain tension. Sometimes the best things in life come from being brave enough to keep showing up, even when you're scared. Sometimes love finds you in the most unexpected places, like a cramped bike shop that smells like rubber and metal and possibility. And sometimes the things that seem broken are exactly the things that lead you to where you're supposed to be.